All right, North. What's up with you? What are you thinking? What's on your mind?
Sure.
What's going
I
on?
wrote down a couple questions, a couple topics I want to go over, both for you and like Josiah. So let's
Okay.
get into it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
This is first mainly for Pisco. It's the anti-Semitism thing.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Just for my own clarification, because I didn't watch the conduit thing like all the way. What do you define as anti-Semitism?
I take anti-Semitism as indexed to individuals to be essentially prejudice or mental bias against someone on account of their Judaism, and or a person who commits some non-trivial amount of discriminatory acts on the basis of Judaism. So one of two kind of visions.
Okay. Do you think that someone can express anti-Semitic discrimination without having, uh, I guess, the hatred of Jews in mind?
I need to know more about what you mean by that. Do you mean, first of all, do you think are you asking if it's possible?
Yes.
And you said to state anti-discriminatory views
No, no, no. To like commit anti-Semitic acts
without having the
without
bias.
necessarily having the internal bias of
Yes.
like, oh, I'm doing this explicitly because I hate Jews. Okay.
Yes, that is possible.
Um. Okay. Do you think that Hassan Piker is like anti-Semitic?
I'm not convinced of that.
You're not convinced of that. Okay. Do you think that like Hassan Piker is, I guess, discriminatory against the vast majority of like the Jewish population?
What are you asking? On the basis of Judaism or on some other ground?
Like the Jewish population, as in like he would discriminate against like 90% of the Jewish population
On the basis of what? Discrimination with respect
on
to
the
what?
basis of the support of Israel.
Yeah, so I don't take that to be discrimination of Jews, do you?
I would.
Why?
Well, if do you think that like him discriminating against
But no,
do
can
you
you
think him
answer that? Wait,
discriminating
so
against
so answer that, please.
I
Answer that
okay,
question.
I
Why
would
do
I
you
would
think the
consider it
discrimination
to
against
be
wait,
discrimination against Jews because you're specifically singling out like one particular ethnic group and saying that like the nation state that encompasses that ethnic group has like no right to exist when you would never apply that like standard to anyone else. It's
wait a second.
discriminatory because like
Whoa,
the selection bias
pause.
is
So if I say that Israel as a state should not exist, is that an anti-Semitic view? Yes or no?
uh arguably yes, I would say so.
So you would okay. So then you would say that, in other words, being criticizing Israel is anti-Semitic.
I think for the most part it is, and especially the way that Hassan uh, cr- uh, uses his justification for his uh I guess you would call it like his hatred of the nation state of Israel. I would consider that anti-Semitic.
So when an internal Israeli Jew criticizes Israel, they're being anti-Semitic on your own view.
I'm sorry, did I say criticize Israel?
Well, or is it just the views that express that a desire that Israel not be a country? Is that the only view which is anti-Semitic in
Like,
this theory?
the reason why it's anti-Semitic is because Hassan specifically considers Israel to not have the right to exist when he would not apply that like standard to like any other country, nor
Okay,
have I
let's
seen him. Like
pause.
he's
So
specifically singling out the Jewish state in order to say that that
on
state
the
like
basis
doesn't
of
exist.
Judaism, in virtue of it being the
I
Jewish
would
state.
I would argue so. Yes, I would
All
argue
right,
that
so,
he's
so,
anti-Semitic and on the basis of it being a Jewish state.
so how would you establish that it's because of Judaism that he's discriminated against Israel?
Uh, because there are other nation states that would fulfill the same criticisms that he has of Israel, and he did not apply those same criticisms to those other states, and thus we have to
Indicates a
infer
bias, right?
that he has a bias towards that one
Ah, so
particular
you agree
state.
with my so,
Yes.
so you think that my definitions of anti-Semitism are fine. You're just trying to show proof of it, right?
Well, hold on. If he's showing bias against the nation state of Israel,
What is
it is,
anti-Semitism?
and
If
he's
you're not
not
gonna bite that bullet, I'm asking you what
If you
anti-Semitism
hold on,
is.
if you were applying,
If you're not going to answer the question easily, stop doing this. You're going to pause. I'm going to write it down, and you're going to tell me what is anti-Semitism because you didn't accept mine. So go ahead. Tell us what anti-Semitism is.
Well, I don't know if I ever except I was sort of delving further into your definition of anti-Semitism. I never agreed or specifically disagreed with it.
You don't have a view whether he's anti-Semitic, do you? Because you don't know what anti-Semitism is.
I do have a view that he's anti-Semitic.
So what is anti-Semitic?
I would argue that
what is anti-Semitic?
I would argue anti-Semitism is like a series of either discriminatory actions or sorry, not a series. I ignore it. It is a discriminatory action or speech against Jews.
Action or speech against Jews because they're Jews?
It doesn't have to. It can include that, but doesn't necessarily have
Not
to
necessarily.
be that.
Okay, so then we'll ask that. So if you say Netanyahu's bad, is that speech against Jews?
Sorry, I was picking up my DoorDash order. Repeat the question.
So Netanyahu's a Jewish person, right? If you say Netanyahu should be out of power, is that speech against Jews?
No, but if the standards that he's applying for removing Netanyahu out of power is only selectively applied to a specifically the Jewish head of state, then I would consider that anti-Semitic. In the same way that his criticisms for the state of Israel are being selectively applied.
Stop with this million.
And thus it is
we're focusing, okay? You're trying to get as narrow as possible to avoid the gaping flaw in your conceptual analysis. That's why you're trying to get as specific as possible, and it's tiring. It's pathetic. So I'm not going to get confused by it. Let's go back to what you offered. You said a discriminatory action or speech against Jews, and it's not necessarily on the basis of their Judaism, right? That's what you said.
It can include that, but it can,
but not necessarily, right? So if I say Benjamin Netanyahu is the worst prime minister in Israeli history, he stinks, he's got to go, he should be indicted, and it's a shame that the Israeli people ever elected such a person. Why does that not fulfill the criteria?
Well, because if the standards that you are applying are, I guess you would call consistent with how you would apply it to the rest of the world, then it would not be
consistency. Consistency is not part of this definition. Where is consistency?
Well, yes, it is, because if we're calling it bias, right?
That's what I say. You didn't say
bias.
White
supremacist who's discriminatory. Would we not argue that a bias is a part of discrimination?
So I think that bias is not necessarily. I actually think bias is probably a form of mental discrimination. Yeah, I would agree with that. But it's not necessarily so. And so I'm asking, why is it the case that a speech against Netanyahu, who is Jewish, would not be covered? Unless discriminatory is indexed to on the basis of a given trait, and that trait being them being Jewish, then I would agree that's not. But then you rejected that.
That's why. No, hold on. I rejected that because you're applying the context in a vacuum. Let's say that
I'm not going to get distracted.
You have
Don't try it. Don't try it. Discrimination with respect to what? Discrimination with respect to what? What's the trait?
With respect to the trait is them being Jewish, and the reason why we are analyzing it
because they're Jewish, right?
Of other things,
because So we're just on the concept
to determine whether is this based off of hatred
I'm not going to get distracted.
Israel based
I'm not going to get distracted.
Stuff, or is it based off of just specifically because they're Jewish?
So just a pause real quick. Your notion of discrimination is exclusive to it being discrimination on the basis of their Judaism, correct? Exclusively.
The factor of the Jewishness is affecting the outward opinion in a biased manner. That is what makes it anti-Semitic.
I mean, that's crazy what you just said, but let's just deal with it. Is it or is it not?
Wait, hold on. Explain why it's crazy.
Because you're saying it somehow affects. It's based on the outcome of it. That's crazy. But when we can get to the effects test stuff, I mean,
As
this
in,
is all,
well, we're calling
this
it
is
about
crazy.
the outcome. What I mean is like when you, so the reason why we're calling this like the anti-Jewish bias is because if you were to have
I didn't
let's say you
ask
had a Jewish
why we're
politician
calling
and a
something something.
non-Jewish
North,
politician,
I'm not,
and
North,
you were
this isn't
applied the same
working.
standard,
You're not,
for some reason,
this
one
is,
standard
this is a failure on your part.
applied
Why
differently to
we
a
raise
different one
something,
based off
so
of-
I just want to be clear,
God.
why we're raising something isn't at issue. Why is not the issue here. The question is what anti-Semitism is, not why it is, right? You get me? We're talking about what it is, okay? And you said that it was a discriminatory action or speech against Jews. And I asked whether discrimination in that context was indexed specifically to being discrimination with respect to their Judaism and exclusively their Judaism. And I'm asking you whether that's the case.
It is not. It is not exclusive to it.
So what is a form of discrimination that isn't related to Jewishness that it would be encompassed here? Give an example. For example, pro-Israel, discrimination against Israel, would that be included here?
It can be, yeah.
So I'll give you the example.
Like a
so
person can, okay, hold on. Do you think that someone can have like not have like Jews in mind, but still be discriminatory towards like the whole Jewish population? That's like the contention that we're having here.
I'm not going to
example of that
I'm not
would
going to get
probably
distracted.
be like, oh my gosh, I hate all Israelis, and all.
I'm not going to get distracted, right? So we're not. So we can get into what we would constitute as evidence against people who are discriminating against Jews on the basis of their Judaism. But we're asking what this discrimination concept is including. Does it include or does it not include anti-Israel bias?
It can.
It can, meaning it would include,
Piker.
right? Oh, it does just for Hassan Piker?
Well, no, not just for Hassan Piker. Don't put words in my mouth, Pisco. When I mean that it can, as in like there are probably some good faith criticisms you can have of like the Israeli state that are made, without the bias of like Judaism in mind. But I would argue that when it comes to Hassan Piker,
you're not
the argumentations that he gives,
stop trying to apply it. Stop trying to apply it. Stop trying to apply it. So North, we cannot apply something. We can't apply. I will not allow you. I will not allow you to attempt to apply a term like anti-Semitism before we understand what the fuck you're talking about. I will not allow it. I will not allow it.
Do you think that like a way to determine a bias that
we need to know what bias it is. So I will not let you do it.
And applying it to either a Jewish or non-Jewish
I will not let you do it until. So,
and then,
so what kind of discrimination does your definition account for? Is it anything more than anti-Jewish bias or discrimination?
I hate to interrupt, but is there a way? Because I know this is going to go on forever, and this has nothing to do with me, and I frankly don't care. Is there a way that we can put a pin in this? Because I don't want you guys to stop having this conversation, and you can ask whatever it is you had for me or me and Pisco that was joint, and then I'll leave, and then you guys can continue to litigate this.
Yeah, we can do that.
Sorry, I apologize. I just I'm trying to hang in there, but like I know you guys are very
sort of like leads into like my other questions.
Sure.
I guess where do you think that Hassan Piker is in the coalition, Josiah?
I'm not entirely sure I consider him part of the coalition. I'm not exactly like married to that idea. I mean, he's certainly more part of the coalition than he's been in previous election cycles because he's trying to get Democrats elected, at least in the primary race. And now he's publicly stating he's going to get behind like David Crowley in Wisconsin and Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan and whatever. So to the extent that Hassan Piker's ever been part of the coalition, I think he's more part of the coalition now than he's ever been. But like if you were to ask me about somebody like Mike from PA, I would say he's not part of my coalition because like he's not a guy who just gets behind Democrats when they win elections, and that's basically my general dividing line.
Since it seems like you generally feel that Hassan Piker is not part of the coalition, although you acknowledge that like he's getting more and more in support of the Democratic Party, do you think that it is worth like making content against him or like I guess condemning politicians who like who work with him or what is your like position on that?
No, because if I were to condemn politicians who work with him, I'd have to condemn one of the politicians that I endorsed in the primary, which is Abdul El-Sayed, and he's won the general, or excuse me, he's
What
won
about
the.
in a post? What about in a primary setting, like Abdul El-Sayed versus Haley Stevens? Did
I
you
endorsed
endorse? Did you
Yes, I
endorse
endorsed
Abdul
Abdul.
El-Sayed in the primary?
Yes, yes,
Okay, so like, why would you endorse Abdul in the primary? In the when there is an alternative candidate available, like we aren't running against a Republican yet, and he has not only just like not condemned Hassan Piker, but he is like actively campaigned with and supported Hassan Piker.
because Abdul El-Sayed is somebody that I favor on certain policies more than Haley Stevens, like particularly court reform. I'm not convinced. Number one, I don't think she endorsed Supreme Court expansion the way that Abdul El-Sayed did, number one. And number two, I'm not convinced, given her more moderate instincts, that she would use her position as the senator from Michigan to like make the case for it. The sense I have of Abdul El-Sayed is that he would be much more aggressive in leveraging the power that he has as a member of the United States Senate to push for the changes that I think are a necessary first step to preventing kind of a dark age of Republican rule and potentially one party rule at the federal level, depending on how the census goes.
And
And
just to
also,
clarify, sorry, you
yeah,
go and then yeah.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, just to clarify, do you consider Hassan Piker to be like a terrorist supporter?
I think he expressed support for the Houthis in Yemen. That's what I've heard, but I've not seen the clips. Based on what I've heard from people in the space, yes, he has expressed at least sympathy, if not outright support, for terrorist groups.
Do you think that like let's say you accept the premise that Hassan Piker supported Hamas, supported Hezbollah, supported the Houthis, supported terrorist attacks in like the UK against jets that were being sent to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming you accept all of this as fact, do you think that that might outweigh the like the and letting that be like a part of like a tolerated part of the Democratic Party? Do you think that like might outweigh the Abdul El-Sayed support for reform?
No,
Is there what would be your standard for like, or is there anything that would be like at your standard?
there's probably no one that Abdul El-Sayed could have a conversation with or a friendly conversation with or appear at a campaign event that would make me not support them in a primary if he supported court reform and the other person did not. I would have to really think about it.
Like
There's not off the top of my head.
If we
There's
had
not.
like Yee and we had
Who?
Nick Fuentes, what was his name? The music.
Yay.
Yay, sorry, fuck me. You tell I don't listen to his shit. Like if you had Ye and you had Kanye West and you had Nick Fuentes on, and they're doing like Heil Hitler things, and they're being, let's say, they're campaigning with Abdul El-Sayed, and Abdul El-Sayed like supports those people.
Are you farming?
With that,
It would if he was so if a person that a candidate was campaigning with was actively promoting or supporting terrorism on stage with that person, and the candidate was also supporting their support of terrorism, like if they were all, hailing Hitler together and doing a Nazi salute, then yeah, that would probably motivate me to not support that person.
But not in the past.
Sorry?
But not if they did that action in the past and they were more mask on stage.
The candidate or the person the candidate is speaking
the person
with?
The candidate is like
a surrogate.
The candidate is not going to condemn that action, and the people on stage will not refute their previous actions. They will say like, yeah, I did that, so what?
So in your hypothetical, the
reason why I ask this question is because in your hypothetical world, they would have to specifically do it on stage. And I'm just wondering if
in order for me to not,
they only did it in the past.
in order for me to not support a candidate who, like, there's some things that would cause me to not support a candidate in the primary who supports court reform. Like, if, for example, if I genuinely believed that they would lose a general election, like they didn't have a snowball's chance in hell, then I would probably not support them in the primary, because I would not want to set them up to lose in the general. Now, if they were competitive in the general, and they supported court expansion, then I would have their back. Now, as far as like reputational consequences and people that they campaigned with, it would have to be, in order for me to reconsider my support for a person who supports court reform, who's competitive in the general, the surrogate that they're campaigning with would have to be actively supporting terrorism in their presence. And this person would have to co-sign it or excuse it. That would be the only thing that would prompt me to
I'm just
reconsider.
confused on like why in their presence is like the qualifier here, or the thing that like
Because that would be the only way I would know that the candidate in question knows that the surrogate supports terrorism.
well, like if someone was to go up to Abdul Al Sayed and said Hassan Piker said that like he hopes that like all the capitalists their blood runs red down the streets and we got to kill
And
all
if
those
Abdul Al
motherfuckers.
Sayed said
And
hell yeah, if Abdul Al Sayed said hell yeah, that sounds based, man, then I would probably reconsider my support for Abdul Al Sayed. Now, if what
well,
he said instead, which is what I expect he would say based on other things he said when confronted with Hassan's statements, if he said something to the effect of, I reject that statement, I find that reprehensible, then no, that wouldn't bother me.
now, as I understand it, he has not actively condemned those things. He has
Has he been confronted?
I wouldn't say, yes, he has been confronted about like Hassan Piker and his support for Hassan Piker's support for him and him like allowing Hassan Piker to campaign with him.
No, I understand that. I understand that, North.
I believe
But
it wasn't exactly like a full-throated support, but it wasn't exactly like oh yeah, this was like
so I've
like a
seen
full denial either.
So I've seen Abdul Al Sayed get confronted with examples of some of Hassan's statements, like again, the one that's going viral is, of course, America deserved 9/11. And I've seen
Yes.
Abdul Al Sayed categorically condemn that. So that is sufficient for me. So you would have to show me an instance of where they say, hey, did you know Abdul Al Sayed expressed support for this particular terrorist group? And then Abdul Al Sayed would have to give a really bad answer to that question for me to reconsider my support for Abdul Al Sayed. And quite frankly, now that we're in the general, it still wouldn't change anything because I would rather have Abdul Al Sayed in the Senate as opposed to Mike Rogers.
Okay, let me see if I have any more things lined up on my list.
Sure.
I guess everything else was really just for Pisco. So, do you have any questions for me?
No. You're the Republican guy, right?
I'm getting a DM by a particular individual.
I guess that you're not a Republican anymore, right, North? You're a Democrat now.
I am still a registered Republican. I am.
That's not what I fucking asked.
I will be supporting the Democratic Party in the 2026 and 2028 elections. With the context that like I know now. Things could change. Like if the Democratic Party went like full tits up, and who knows at that rate.
Sure, me too.
Pisco, what about you? What about anything I said? Do you take issue with it, or do you have a different answer?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm going to be honest. My eyes kind of glazed over, but it sounded like those are the calculations I'd make. I mean, like, fuck Mike Rogers.
Yeah, especially in the general. Like, there's no Republican I would vote for out of the current batch of Democratic candidates.
Yeah,
I think I would vote for Lisa Murkowski, but
over who?
Over who? She's not up, but over who?
My audio switched over. Hello.
It's worse.
Yeah, we hear you. You're a bit far away.
Yeah, hold on. There we are. Does that fix it for everything? Hello.
It was way better before.
Yeah,
you sound a bit distant, North.
Every time I turn on my car, whenever I deliver a DoorDash, it switches.
Yeah, just go back to your phone. Up. Yeah, there you go.
Now you sound better. Now you sound good. You sound like you switched back.
Wait, hold on. So with Abdul Al-Sayed said, quote, "That's dumb," in response to the 9/11 comment. Do you think that's like a sufficient response?
Dude, stop virtue signaling. What you want to be
I
like?
think he said that's dumb. Of course, I don't agree with it. We would need to see the full context or the full statement. I don't think he said just that's dumb. And I think he's been questioned about this multiple times. So I think he's given
Okay.
multiple iterations of that answer. But that's dumb, yes, is obviously not an endorsement. It's a condemnation of the statement. If I say you're dumb, I'm not endorsing you. I'm probably condemning you.
Like, I mean, ideally, I would want if a politician was asked a
Of
question like
course.
this
Of course.
supporter of yours who you campaigned with.
Yeah, but you
said
didn't
that.
ask me. But you
Like-
didn't ask me if it was the ideal response. You didn't ask me if that's dumb is ideal or even
Like,
optimal.
it's
Certainly
Well, we're
not.
talking if it's like unideal, then like I guess it would lower your opinion of him, which I guess it was. It's just not to the point where you would
marginally.
Yeah.
of not,
Yeah,
not
I
supported
can't.
him.
Yeah, I really
during
can't
the
stress it
primary.
enough. I'm trying to engage with the hypothetical, assuming it's like in good faith as much as I possibly can. But given the existential threat we face, I can't imagine a set of practical circumstances that would prompt me to withdraw my support for a Democratic candidate, particularly in the general, over Republican, especially if they endorse court reform. Now, in the primary, again, I'm still inclined to support a candidate who supports aggressive systemic change like court reform, DC statehood, state stuff like that. And the only thing that would immediately prompt me to reconsider that is if I thought that they were going to, because we've seen these ABC polls, right, where they may do well in the primary, but they're going to get shellacked by 50 points or whatever in the general. Then I might go, damn, I wish you were more electable, but just keeping a Republican out of the seat is even more important than having a Democrat in the seat who embraces my support of court reform. And as far as like a moral consideration, again, you would have to show that they support the reprehensible views of the surrogate in question to make me even consider withdrawing my support. A suboptimal or unideal condemnation in the face of terrible things that the surrogate has said, it would not be enough.
Am I remembering correctly that like Haley Stevens had better polling against Mike Rogers than Abdul Al-Sayed?
It was like marginal.
She did.
It was like 2 or 3 points. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. If Abdul
and to be
loses this
clear,
election,
if the polling was, and if there was strong evidence that
7, 8,
Abdul
9.
stands no chance or stood no chance in a general election, and the only viable path, like, kind of the Doctor Strange thing in Avengers Endgame, like the only viable path in the, preponderance of evidence and all the timelines in the multiverse is for Haley Stevens to win, then
We would endorse her in
that
November.
probably would have caused me to support Haley Stevens.
If it was a
because keeping
significantly
Republican,
big poll lead, more than
Yeah.
it was, I would have endorsed Stevens, even though she would be unideal.
Yeah.
if Abdul Al-Sayed loses, would this make you like rethink any of like your priors?
I mean, certainly it would make me think, okay, well, we have to take even more seriously like the polling gap between candidates in a primary in a swing state election. But again, as Pisco said and others said, it wasn't like a 10-point blowout. It's not like a 15-point blowout. It would just say, okay, well, the 3, 4, 5 points in some of the polls, that's going to be more impactful the next time around. But as a general heuristic, again, I'm balancing two things: the necessary reforms that I think a candidate needs to embrace in order for the Democratic Party to, win sustained power in the future, versus their ability or their likelihood of winning a general election in the first place. Like, I'm not such an ideologue that I'm going to back an unlikely candidate in a primary simply on preference. I mean, I suppose I would if I felt that the seat was not necessary. Then maybe I would be willing to back a preferred primary candidate who's less optimal in the general. But Michigan is not something we can afford to lose. So if El Sayed loses, it could seriously cause me to reconsider my priors, but it also depends on why he loses. So like if the Democratic coalition comes together and we unite as a caucus, and we give it our full best effort And for whatever reason, in this political environment, which should be pretty favorable to Dr. El Sayed, if he fails to prevail, then I think it should be a come to Jesus meeting, not just for people who endorsed him in the primary, but for leftists writ large. Like, hey, we ran your fucking experiment, right? We ran, we did the opposite of what Laksha Jain and others recommended. And we went with a more progressive preferred candidate over the moderate. And the Near Tandons of the world were correct. And so if you want to push for a more progressive candidate in a safe blue district or a safe blue state, that's fine. But in swing states, we're going to vote for moderates, and you just need to make your fucking peace with it.
I have a question for you, North, before Josiah leaves. Who would you vote
North,
for?
does that make sense? Wait a minute, before you ask your question, does that make sense, North?
I would have like one more question.
Well, just ask it to me, and then you can throw it back to Pisco.
Yeah. It's adding on to the reassessing your priors. Would you make content like condemning progressives for further pushing like progressive candidates in swing states if Abdul loses, or would you continue on the same?
It would make it more likely that I do so if I believe that this is indicative. If I am convinced based on the results of the election, if Abdul Assayed loses, we would need to see the extent to which he lost. We would need to see the exit polling. We would need to examine the data. And if basically at the end of the day, what it comes down to is progressive candidates just simply can't win in swing state elections, then yes, I would be much more inclined to make content saying, hey, listen, those of you when we always said that, just vote your heart in the primary or whatever it is, vote your preference in the primary, come together in the general. Well, again, leftists, progressives, whatever, we ran this experiment. We got behind our guy. We were in lockstep as an army together, the DNC, the money, the influencers, the endorsements, and it wasn't enough to get us over the finish line. And keeping these seats, these swing seats and swing districts out of Republican hands is more important than putting progressives in them. And so, yes, I would call that out.
Okay, sweet. All right.
But again, North, I want to be clear. I want to be clear.
Oh,
hang on, North, I want to be clear. The fact that if El Sayed loses, that is not enough. So if he loses, which he may very well be, I don't want you and other losers in my mentions go, aha, you lost. Where's my fucking video? Because the answer is going to be, it depends on how much he lost by, why he lost, and all the facts leading up to it.
How about this? If he loses, how about we agree verbally to schedule some sort of like post autopsy stream, and we can go over it together.
Maybe we should do that if he wins too, and I'll gloat and you'll all bend the knee. How about that?
You know what? I'm willing to. I'll be willing to take that bet.
All right, go ahead. You can ask Pisco your question.
Well, I had a question for you, North.
What's up?
Who are you voting for? Hamas Piker or Jefferson Davis from the Confederacy?
Hamas Piker or Jefferson Davis?
Yeah.
It would depend.
Really?
Yeah, it would depend.
All right. Is there anything else that we have to cover with Josiah?
Not that I can think of. No, I'm sure I could think of other questions, but combination of the things I already have prepared for you, Pisco, and me door dashing it. I just can't think of anything right now. So,
word. Hey.
Well, this was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, we got to do this again sometime.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, listen, Pisco, I just got to say, I'm still to rub one off on that. I'm so funny.
Yeah,
Did you appreciate that clip? I thought you were pissed off. Did you appreciate that clip?
Oh,
I sent in the group chat? Yeah.
Of the guy?
Of you.
Oh, no, I wasn't mad. Don't worry.
Okay, just making sure, because that was so funny to me. Just, I don't know. I appreciate that. But anyway.
Like that. And we like your
listen.
scenes.
Yeah, I know. No more, because I have an editor now. Such things are beneath me now. I will no longer have those gaffes. It will be sneeze free. So, but guys, listen, I appreciate it. Appreciate you keeping me company in my internetless moment. And I'm going to go suffer, I guess, in silence now. So,
all right, brother.
Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Okay, North, where we were at, we're discussing your definition of anti-Semitism. You said a discriminatory action or speech against Jews, and I was wondering whether the discrimination needs to be indexed to specifically the fact that they are Jewish, or if some other kind of discrimination is included there. That's where we left off.
I would argue that like if you have a discriminatory act that is if we can prove the bias is like if we removed all or if we checked all the other factors and all the other factors were consistent and the only thing that was different there was the fact that like one person was Jewish and one person like wasn't Jewish, then I think we can determine that there's like a bias there. Would you agree or would you disagree?
You didn't listen to my fucking question. Listen for 2 seconds. Repeat my question.
Okay, Pisco. You repeat the question. I cannot repeat the
So
question.
I need you to listen and not listen. Maybe I should get
Sure.
Avi in here if he's around, because I'm not able to communicate to you. Because you're clearly not listening. You're dashing. My bad. Let me know when you're back.
Yeah. One moment.
My fries are cold. You debating Israel again? We told you not to do that on the job.
Like
Just pause. Just pause.
not
Just pause.
against Jews.
Pause. Can you hear me? Test 1, 2, 3.
I can. You're breaking up on my end. Hello.
Okay, it should be better now. Just refresh. Everyone
Okay.
refresh. Everyone refresh.
Oh boy.
All right, we're back up. You can hear me, right? Hello?
Hello.
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right. We disconnected for a second. I think we're fine. Everyone press 1 if you can hear me. 1 if you can hear me.
Oh boy, you're breaking up again.
Oh no. 1, 1, 1. You're good on YouTube? Why aren't you guys typing 1? Okay. All right. North, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What's going on?
Okay. So the question I asked was regarding whether or not the discrimination you're envisioning as part of your definition relates to discrimination against Jews because they're Jewish, and only such discrimination.
It does not have to include that. It can include discrimination against Jews just because they're Jewish, but it can be slightly more nuanced than that.
Well, what other discrimination could be included in the definition? I'm bringing Avi in here.
Okay, so if you were to discriminate against someone, you might not have. Do you agree that like someone might not have like anti-Jewishness in mind, but they still might have like an anti-Jewish bias? Like, do you believe that like something like that is like inconceivable?
It sounds like you're saying someone could have an anti-Jewish bias without having an anti-Jewish bias. I don't know what you're asking.
No. And then can their actions reflect an anti-Jewish bias without that being in their thoughts? That is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, yes, and that is basically what it would encompass.
No, but like it's all indexed to whether it's discriminatory action or discriminatory mindset. It's the discrimination component of that is indexed to anti-Jewish discrimination, right? Not just that's the thing
Sure.
that is okay. So there's not like some additional thing. Okay. All right. So what is it?
I'm sure I could think of like more nuanced things. I just don't want to be like entirely limited to that.
So
and I
what's
don't know
your
why
issue,
you
then?
keep like no. Hold on. Why do you keep like harping on this issue? Like, is there a specific reason why outside of you saying like we're just trying to get our definitions down that you keep harping on this issue? Because it feels
you'll start asking me.
This doesn't like.
I don't care about the meta.
Against,
I don't care about meta. I don't care about meta. So
this is like a bit of a meta conversation, but okay.
So I need to know what you mean when you ask me whether something's anti-Semitic. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay.
But like, does me saying that like it can be a little bit nuanced, does that like inherently discredit what I have been trying to talk about or what I've talked about before?
Does saying it's nuanced discredit the things you say? No.
Yes. Okay. So then, yeah, I don't understand why we keep having like this like major contention and you keep like trying to shit on me when we could just like keep moving on.
No, because it was clear that there was like a mismatch between what I was meaning with anti-Semitic and what you were meaning with anti-Semitic, and so that's why I wanted to clarify.
Hey, sure.
But it sounds like we don't disagree. So, for example, if someone just because someone harbors, Holocaust denialist ideology, you would agree that's not inherently anti-Semitic, yes or no?
the actions reflect into anti-Semitism. Yes,
It's
like
strong
they,
evidence. It's strong evidence for anti-Semitism, but it's not inherently correct.
like Holocaust denialism in the action reflects into anti-Semitism.
No,
Like if you
listen to what I just said. Holocaust denial beliefs, those those are not necessarily. It's not necessarily the case the person who harbors such beliefs is an anti-Semite. Correct?
I would argue that they are an anti-Semite because
No.
that is like a
Is it
discriminatory.
necessarily
like if someone,
the case? Avi, can you help me?
like
I
I
can't
guess
get there. I can't do this.
if there's no such thing as someone who maybe there is such a thing, but maybe it's like one like a trillion percent, and this is like not applicable at all. That there might be a anti-Semitic person or a non-anti-Semitic person who's a Holocaust denier, and like they don't express that beliefs at all in like their actions or their speech. Like sure that's like possible, but this is like so in the weeds that like I don't think it discredits like what I'm talking about.
I don't think Pisco is asking you, North, about what the probability of a situation like that obtaining is going to be. We could all agree that's going to be like ridiculously low. It might even be an empty set. It might be just like there is no case.
I would argue that it probably is like an empty set.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. It might be an empty set, but that's fine. He's not trying to make a claim about whether the set is empty or not.
Well, he's saying that in order to discredit my definition of like anti-Semitism when his example is so his example is so non-existent that it just doesn't even matter.
Well, I think he's giving a non-existent example because he's trying to tease out whether there's a component.
Well, he believes in this. This is what he says that he believes is existent.
Well, no. Well, he's in the hypothetical he's offering. He's
no.
saying,
Pisco, you believe this, right? You believe that there's such a thing as like a
what?
Holocaust denier who's not anti-Semitic.
In the hypothetical, it's possible. Is all I'm saying.
Do you believe in the hypothetical, as in like as part of your definition of anti-Semitism? Do you believe that you can have like a Holocaust denier who is not anti-Semitic?
That it's possible.
The can there is the hypothetical. He's not claiming like right now there's someone out there that is.
I'm asking as part of his definition. Is that true?
Is what true?
Is as part of your definition of anti-Semitism, can you have a Holocaust denier who is not anti-Semitic?
It's possible.
Yes, yes, he believes in this as part of his definition.
Yeah, he believes it's possible. He also would believe that he could also believe that's an empty set, though. Like you realize those two things are compatible. He could say, if you ask him, is there any person on Earth right now who denies the Holocaust and is not an anti-Semite?
I would doubt it.
He would say he can say, I think there are none. Like you can hold that view and also hold the view that it's possible to deny the Holocaust without being an anti-Semite.
Okay, when we apply this, let's apply this to reality. Do you think this applies to Hassan Piker?
What does what apply to? Go ahead. Sorry, I'm not.
Do you think that Hassan Piker in like his hatred for Israel is insofar as like it is not like anti-Semitic?
You're asking me whether I think Hassan. I don't know how that relates to what we were just talking about.
Okay.
So I think what Pisco's trying to get like a clarity on the notions of anti-Semitism you both have, because there's a focal point that he seems to be detecting that you might not be on the same page on. And so he's going to answer the question differently depending on whether that focal point is present or absent from this notion.
Like we're getting bogged down in this Holocaust denier anti-Semite thing when it's just not applicable to reality. And I just kind of want to move on from it because it ultimately does not matter.
You don't have to use that example to illustrate the difference.
Yeah, you two have a good night.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Listen, I'm on your side here. I think
he's door dashing.
I think Hassan's anti-Semitic too. I'm just able to see the difference between where you guys are getting hung up on. I'm trying to clear it up. I'm trying to help at least. I'm not trying to like fight you. I agree with you on if the debate proposition is Hassan Piker is an anti-Semite, I agree with you.
The nice waitress who was giving me the DoorDash order as I was waiting in the car.
He was door dashing. He wasn't leaving.
Yes.
Sorry. I thought he was like.
No. I was being polite to the nice waitress who decided to come out to my car to go hand me the food I'm delivering to a person.
Okay, because when you said like you two have a nice night.
No. I said have a nice night to the lady. I'm sorry. I should have eaten.
Okay.
Look. Ultimately, does What is the point of you trying to bring up the
I can
non-anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, Pisco? What is the exact point you're trying to bring?
So I can explain. I can try to explain. I think you might be hearing better from Avi, but
Wait, I want to hear from you because you're the one that brought it up.
So
right?
the reason I bring up this hypothetical is to suggest to you that there's a mismatch in how we're using the term anti-Semitism. That you seem to be using anti-Semitism in a way that I don't quite understand, and so the example illustrates that mismatch.
If we let's say that we disagree on this specific part of like a definition for anti-Semitism. Could we go into the Hassan Piker and as I've said before, like if he has this justification for hating Israel and then he doesn't apply that same justification for other states, then and we link that to like a Jewish bias or not, then this contention that we're having over anti-Semitism does not apply to what I'm trying to bring up, right?
I'm not sure. It depends on what you mean by anti-Semitic and what you're asking to evaluate with respect to.
Hold on, but when we're talking about anti-Semitic in this case, I am saying that Hassan Piker has a series of justifications for hitting on the nation state of Israel and like Israeli politicians and people who like support Israel. And I would argue that those justifications for that are selectively only applied to Jews, and that is like the bias that we're seeing. Because if you would apply it to like anything else, you wouldn't apply like the exact same standard.
So you're asking if you were able to show that he has an anti-Jewish bias, would he have an anti-Jewish bias?
Would that be anti-Semitic?
I would think that anti-Jewish bias is by definition anti-Semitic. I don't know about Avi.
Yes,
do you?
So then we agree. Yes. So can we get into the substance of it instead of going over?
I just want to make sure
weird anti-Semitic like definition debate. You understand that, right?
No,
like,
because
we're going over this anti-Semitism definition thing when ultimately it doesn't matter to like maybe if we get into a new situation with like Hassan Piker where like that contention in the definition applies, maybe then we can get into that that
the reason why I want to clear up the semantics first.
It doesn't apply. So
the reason why I want to clear up the semantics
first.
The reason why I want to clear up the semantics first is because it might bear on what evidence you're going to present to me, right?
Well, shouldn't I just present the evidence first, and then if it does contend, then we can get into it? But if not, we're just going to be wasting our time over nothing.
Avi, can you explain? Because I can't.
So no, hold on.
Yeah, it sounds like what.
Why do you need Avi to explain? Why do you need Avi?
Because I can't reach your head. You won't listen to me.
Well, you're not contending with what I'm saying.
I don't think you're going to listen to me if I explain it.
Like we're not talking about like when we're talking about the definition of anti-Semitism, it is not like 5 different bullet points and all of them have to be true. If we agree that like an anti-Jewish bias is anti-Semitic, and I'm trying to demonstrate that Hassan has an anti-Jewish bias,
yeah, I can work with that.
Definition thing that we have a contention over.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's
then
fine.
It should not apply to the conversation.
Because
even if we disagree with that, we still agree that Hassan Piker would be anti-Semitic.
Take a fucking breath. I'm losing my temper with you. Okay, chill. All right. So if you want to work off my notion of anti-Semitism, where one of the notions indexed to individuals is anti-Jewish bias, I'm happy to do that. The problem is, North. Many people have been unwilling. Many people in these conversations. And how it seemed to be as you entered, since you seem to take issue, don't want to do that. They want to say that anti-Semitism is like something about effects and functional anti-Semitism and like causing anti-Semitism or whatever, something to increase.
Wait, hold on. Do you disagree that like if you have no, we're gonna get bogged down into this debate again.
Yeah.
First, let's agree or disagree on that Hassan thing, and then we can get to the contention. Because I agree with you. There has been contention on the anti-Semitic thing, but the problem is we keep getting bogged down in that conversation without actually getting to like,
not my fault. It's not my fault that we're getting bogged down.
Hold on, you're applying other people's arguments to me.
No,
like,
you were
I agree with those other people.
Started down that path.
You tried to draw to that.
No. You started down that path. You asked me what I viewed anti-Semitism as, and you were taking issues. You were having some issues with it. That's why
I was asking
you offered an
questions.
alternative definition, right?
Well, I offered a personal definition. I wouldn't say it was like an
Yeah, so
alternative
there was an issue
definition
there. It
for,
wasn't
like, a
my
hard
fault.
debate thing.
You think I have an issue with applying my own notion of anti-Semitism? You think that's been the problem?
Like the one thing that I had in contention with your definition was the like it felt like you were trying to group like that it had to be specifically with in mind that something had to be like against that had to be like hatred of Jews in their brain for it to be like anti-Semitic.
What are you
when
saying?
I think that there can be like the action in and of itself without the hatred can be anti-Semitic.
I've granted that. Wait,
without like the hate.
but you heard me grant
well,
that.
that's what I thought you were implying with the definition, and that's why I asked you the question. I
No,
guess if you don't
didn't
disagree
think
with that,
that.
and then we don't.
You didn't, but we can move on if you want. All right, so using my notion of anti-Semitism.
Okay, can we get into the Hassan thing, please?
Yeah,
and then we can get back to this is an interesting discussion, and I don't want to leave the discussion. I want to get back to this discussion. The problem is that we're getting like you agree that we're getting like bogged down in this discussion.
If you
and
go
we can
crazy,
just, like, it's just better
if
to
you
go
go
on.
crazy again, I'm ending this fucking call. All right, so just chill for a second.
Am I going
all right?
crazy?
Yes, you're going crazy. You're making me mad.
Okay.
All right. So yes, I'm happy to move to Hassan, whether he's anti-Semitic, on my notion of anti-Semitism. I've never had a problem with that. Avi,
Sure.
Avi and Loner and I mean, it's difficult because we're in fucking different time zones. Avi, I think that the time window is like between 9 and 4 Eastern. If you're available, sometime this week.
That's fine. I could make.
Okay.
Listen, I think the last in our group chat, I said I was free during at least a little bit in that time window.
Okay. All right, so let's we're gonna have a conversation about that too, and I want Loner Box, to hear him out too. But like, I'm happy to hear your case for Hassan's anti-Semitism if you want to do that now on my notion of anti-Semitism.
Hold on. Freaking DoorDash is yelling in my ear. Give me one moment. Okay, here.
They're like,
when
my sandwich is cold. I was debating about Israel and Hassan.
It's when I pull up, it talks in my ear saying like, deliver to door.
Can I just ask, like, what happens if you like deliver to a Jewish family when you're in the middle of this?
Okay.
They start clapping and crying.
Anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
First off, do you believe that like Hassan displays a anti-Jewish bias
I'm
in
not
terms of like, let's say all else equal? Okay.
But I'm open to it.
What
I'm not convinced.
Okay. I think the greatest example of this would probably be the difference in Hassan's rhetoric versus Turkey and for Israel. That would be my greatest argument for an anti-Jewish.
That's the best
bias.
piece of evidence you have is the difference between his rhetoric on Turkey versus
I
Israel.
Is
he breaking up for you, Avi, or is it just me?
He's breaking up for me as well.
One moment.
Pro-Israel internet.
There's North. There's a lot of better options to pick for evidence here. This wouldn't be my first.
Hello.
Pick.
Hey, you're there. Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Well, it was a bit of a couple. The reason why I
not just me, right?
Like how the state of Turkey has acted, how the state of Israel's acted. Hassan's justification for opposing the state of Israel, and then applying that like the state of Turkey. There's an inconsistency there that I think can only be applied to like an anti-Jewish bias. And
what about pro-Turkey bias?
Specifically because there is like.
Is that plausible?
Well, you could apply it to like other nation states as well. Like Turkey is like
but you said this is the strongest evidence.
Like substance.
You're not going to give up that easily on the best.
By strongest evidence, I mean like it is the easiest to go into in terms of like substance while I'm like in my car.
Yeah, so why don't we do that?
Sound clips on hand for me to be able to send you.
Okay, so then why don't we do the Turkey point?
Okay, Turkey is I guess you call it like an ethno-nationalist state. So it is a state for the Turks by the Turks. It is engaged in discriminatory behavior against the minorities within the country, as well as
Agreed.
occupying territories outside of the country,
Agreed.
and in the same manner that Hassan Piker would call apartheid in the nation state of Israel.
Oh, that's unclear to me. Wait,
Turkey,
that's unclear to me.
well, they occupy like other. I guess they don't occupy like an entire country next to them, but they do occupy like territory outside of like their country against a ethnic minority that resides like within their country, with the fear that that ethnic minority is like going to like rise up within their country. Like, do we not see like a little bit of like equivalency there?
So he could. I'm just, again, these are not my views necessarily, but he could say he views the conditions in Gaza versus whatever Kurdish security zone or whatever, or even internally in Turkey, that he views those conditions as fundamentally different. It could be that he is Turkey biased and that he's willing to because I think he's partly Turkish, or if not, he might have Turkish citizenship. I'm not sure. So that could explain it as well.
I think he grew up in Turkey, so I'm assuming he has Turkish citizenship.
Okay, so I don't think that you've done your job of convincing me that's because it's Jewish. I mean, it could just be that he views the conditions differently, and he views Turkey as,
well. Hold on,
he's a bias in favor of Turkey.
Hold on. Does bias in favor of Turkey mean that Hassan? Hold on. So if we were to like have other states that he would also hold like the exact same rhetoric for, in the same way that he does like with Turkey, then that would also show is just beyond like a bias for Turkey, right? It's like a bias against Israel. Would you accept that premise?
I mean, it depends if there's some other, the pro-Turkey rationale wouldn't be, if what you're asking is the pro-Turkey rationale, I'm assuming that wouldn't be a plausible, comparison.
Like if there were other states that also engaged in this behavior, which he similarly like excused, then and which he would not like apply that to the specific example of like Israel, then we would call this like the anti-Israel bias.
Okay, but now we're having that problem again. Avi, can you? I can't get through. So the anti-Israel bias,
or I guess what we'll call anti-Jewish bias.
That's what you're looking for, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, if you could show different countries where there's like an inconsistent standard or something, that would be some evidence.
China, Turkey, I guess you could say Russia. Those are like the big three examples of where he would support like ethnic cleansing, like the annexation of like or occupation of other territories in like other countries, as well as like promoting like ethno-nationalist states.
So also, let's just pause real quick. So you're saying like Hassan is in favor of like, you're saying Hassan is in favor of ethno-nationalism in China?
It would be the promotion of the Han Chinese population against the minorities in China, that being like the Tibetans as well as the Uyghurs.
Sorry, did you hear my question?
Yes, the answer would be yes.
Okay, and so what are the statements that indicate he's in favor of ethno-nationalism in China?
I would his general support for the nation state in China, in spite of the fact that they are engaged in, I guess you would call it cultural genocide, although some people sort of like contest that term.
So
against
you would say that
the Uyghur genocide.
So pause real quick.
The Uyghurs
can you pause real quick? Can you pause real quick? Is it your contention? We'll do it one at a time. Is it your contention that supporting a country which is an ethnic nationalist country, or that has an ethnic preference, commits you to being ethnic nationalist?
Well, the reason why he goes
answer the fucking question. I'm not going to ask again.
The answer is yes. Or is there no?
In virtue of
it
what?
Doesn't even make you an ethno-nationalist. It's more so the fact that he's willing to ignore the ethno-nationalism with certain states, and then other states he will not ignore the ethno-nationalism.
Avi, I can't deal with this.
My gosh.
So, I mean, I don't know if you want me to.
I do.
I know. Okay.
Okay, Avi, what's going on?
What's going on, North? Okay, so just want to make sure we're clear on this. So Pisco has a notion of anti-Semitism that it's going to have to be whether it's like in the mind or whether it's an action. It's going to be the sort of thing that it's going to at least have to be partially explained by the fact that it's prejudice against Jews, and it's explained because they're Jews and not some other sort of thing. It's not like some other sort of ideological thing independent of that. It doesn't have to fully be explained by that, but at least has to be partially be explained by that.
But the problem is that the rhetoric applied against the Jewish state, it is the only state that he will apply that rhetoric to. Like, when is the last time you heard Hassan, like if you want to say that like Hassan Piker has like a anti-West, like pro, I guess countries that like hate America bias, instead of saying like it's an
I
anti-Jewish
would say
bias,
that, by the way.
Hassan Piker has never applied the exact same rhetoric for, let's say, Germany or Poland, at least not in the same way of calling them like ethno-nationalist states.
So what I just said. So I hear you. So what I just but what I just said was that it's going to have to be explained, at least in part, just by the fact that they're Jewish and not because of that they're a Jewish state. Unless there's some way of saying that.
Well, hold on. There's only one Jewish state.
I know there's only one Jewish state. Whether is going to be true whether there's one state or Jewish or 2 or 3 Jewish states or 10. It doesn't, like, regardless.
So if we're like discriminating against like the one Jewish state, then like will we not consider that like to be an anti-Jewish bias?
No. So on the notion Pisco just gave you, you can have a anti-Israel bias without having an anti-Jewish bias. So, and yes, you would have an anti-Jewish state bias without necessarily.
Yes, but like the bias that we're talking about here is only applied selectively to the Jewish state.
It would be an inconsistency. Yes, you could have an inconsistency.
Well, hold on. What are we calling will we not call like an inconsistency in like applying your standards? Will we not call that like discrimination?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be against Jews qua Jews. It wouldn't be like, that's what Pisco is going to tell you. He's going to say, like, on the notion,
like if they're only applying it like against just one particular state, then yes, it is. That is like the changing factor.
It doesn't necessarily. Look, the point is that what Pisco is the notion Pisco just gave you, and this is what I really want to grasp before like either making the decision of whether you want to either fight him on the notion and saying the notion is going to commit him to something weird, or just going on to evidence. You want to grasp what he's going to say to those things based on his notion. He has a notion where he's going to tell you that even all the things you're saying, you could have this inconsistent standard about Israel. You can be like completely unfair to Israel and uncharitable to Israel, unfair to the Jewish state. You can like not apply it consistently anywhere. But none of that is going to commit him on his definition to an anti-Semitic notion. Like, you can do all of that without being anti-Semitic. It might be evidence he's anti-Semitic, but just so you know, like,
hold on.
It might be.
Wait, how can something be evidence of anti-Semitism? Like, as in it fits within like the standard of what we call anti-Semitism, that being like bias.
Well, evidence would be
an observation, like anti-Semitic, and we also agreed earlier that like the.
So
sorry,
North.
Say that again.
Yeah. So the way you
no, Pisco repeat. I didn't hear what Pisco said.
I said it raises the credence.
It raises the credence. Okay.
Yeah. So if, for example, like someone could be like a raging anti-Zionist that is genuinely unfair and has double standards and is unfair against Israel, like it is possible on the notion that Pisco gave you that someone would be just completely unfair to Israel, but still not it's not because they're Jewish. It's not because it's because they're Israel. Like that
so then how are we going to be differentiating? I would argue that the when we're talking about, okay, so if we have the raging anti-Zionist and we're assuming that they're not going to be anti-Semitic, I would argue the burden of proof should be on proving that they are not anti-Semitic.
Who's talking about burdens?
That they like are
hold
anti-Semitic.
On. Okay, well wait. But before we get to further argument, like you understand though, North, before we can move on, before we go on to that, like you understand, like this is the notion Pisco's working with, and it might be different from your notion.
I understand sort of where Pisco's coming from. Like, I think it's wrong, and I will argue against it.
Okay, fine. But I'm just okay. But it's important to realize, like, if you're going to move on to like the practical, like, okay, I'm going to present evidence for his notion of anti-Semitism, it's important for you to recognize like where that's different from yours.
Sure, and we can operate within his definition of anti-Semitism, and then if the evidence that I proves, like if I can prove that like there is a Jewish bias beyond an anti-Jewish bias
beyond anti-Israel bias, beyond anti-Israel.
beyond like
Like
the
if you were to
anti-Israel bias.
say
Like
like
I would,
something like,
argue
okay,
that
well,
like the anti-Israel bias is like where we would start, and then like we can continue this on to like his other actions. Like whenever there was like the synagogue shooters, him and how his chat sort of like reacted to that being like generally supportive. When there are I think he was perpetuating like the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories of like the New York tunnels. If anyone remembers that, I have to double check on that. If he was perpetuating those anti-Jewish like conspiracy theories, like he uses the term like pig dog a lot. We generally consider pig dog to be like a historical anti-Semitic phrase used in Poland and Germany. Like all these things in together with like if we're talking about like an anti, like he's applying an inconsistent standard in which he wishes the complete destruction of the one Jewish state that exists, then yeah,
sure, but you understand what
I
this
think
task
all
is
this
at
in
the
the
end of the day for
totality
all
would
of us.
show that Hassan Piker is anti-Semitic. Is
Okay,
there anything that I said that was wrong?
wait, but
Is there
just,
anything I just said that was wrong?
okay, hold on, slow down, North. Okay, I'm just trying to get you to see the big picture task here. Like the big
No,
picture
hold
task.
on.
That's fine. You could do.
Is there
Look, you
anything that
can
I
do
said
all
that
of
was
this.
just wrong? I just want you to answer that.
In terms of like factually, like I'm not sure if you said anything factually incorrect. I'm just trying to get you to understand what the picture is and where you're going to apply those facts to convince Pisco. So the key point here is that you're going to want to present it. You're going to want to make him have a credence that it's more the explanation for all of these things that all these observations that you're bringing to the table, whether it be the use of the term pig dog, or whether it be the use of, or whether it be an inconsistent standard toward the Jewish state, or whether it be any other sort of thing that a sub conspiracy that Hassan Piker may have peddled. You're going to want to present the case that the hypothesis that is most likely, that best is most expected, that expects these observations more so, is going to be that it's, at least in part, a bias against Jews explained because they're Jews. Not that some rival hypothesis is going to fully explain it. So a rival hypothesis like, oh, he is biased against Israel. Or a rival hypothesis like, oh, he is biased against Zionists. Or a rival hypothesis that he is biased against settlers, or he is biased against like any of these things. Like all these other rival hypotheses, you want to make the case that all of these other potential rival hypotheses, they are not going to plausibly account for all of the observations we're seeing. They may account for some of them, they may account for partial of some of them, but they're not going to fully explain this without also having us commit ourselves to saying, well, they're also having us take on board the hypothesis that there's something about Jewish because they're Jews here. That's the goal. That's the big picture.
How do you explain then? Because this is also work. This can be applied to you as well. This is not just applied to me. How do you explain plausibly that Hassan Piker is? Let's see here now. He uses anti-Semitic slurs. He applies a extremely inconsistent standard with the one Jewish state that exists when it comes to like synagogue shootings. Him and his community are unusually supportive. Like, he went to emo only mode, and all of his emotes were like hearts when he was reading out the shooter's manifesto. Like, what is the plausible explanation for him to just be anti-Zionist and not like anti-Semitic?
Is that to me or to Pisco?
Both of you. I mean, you're
okay,
defending
just to be
Pisco,
clear,
so
just to be clear, I think Hassan is anti-Semitic. I don't know if you realize that, but I'm able to see I'm able to see where you're floundering in the approach that would convince Pisco. So I'm trying to help you. So I can play devil's advocate. If you're asking me to play devil's advocate, I could do that. I can play the
why can't Pisco respond here?
Wait, so what do you want me to respond to?
Okay.
Which part? So you said anti-Semitic slurs. What are the anti-Semitic slurs?
What is him calling Jews pig dogs, and then also saying
You said
he calls them
anti-Semitic
incestuous
slur
as well, which is also
so
like
an anti-Semitic slur is evidence that would raise my credence. So what's the anti-Semitic slur that he uses?
pig dog.
Okay, so what's the evidence that pig dog is an anti-Semitic slur?
I believe it is like if you look up anti-Semitic slurs, it is a slur used in like Poland and Germany, specifically in like Nazi Germany. Like the Nazis would call the Jews pig dogs, and like their rhetoric.
Okay, so I don't deny that Nazis may have used the term pig dog. As I understand the term, it also has uses in non-anti-Semitic contexts. That is to say, non-hateful against Jews context. And
what is the non-anti-Semitic context
so,
that someone uses pig dog for?
That it's a broader term that is used to denigrate people or insult people, not just in Jews. What's the evidence that it's exclusive to Jews
what is an
mostly
example
Jews?
outside of
I'm
talking about?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay,
that because obviously suggested that to me,
Yeah,
and he's a well-read person.
I can answer if you're asking. Like, yeah, I can. Like, if you're asking about the historical usage of the term, the Nazis used that term as an insult. It wasn't. It was certainly toward Jews, but not exclusively toward Jews. Like, it was a generic insult. It was, of course, as an insult, used heavily towards Jews during the Holocaust.
Okay, so when Hassan Piker is talking about quote unquote Zionists, and he's calling them pig dogs, is there not like a connection we can make here? Like, does this not like increase the plausibility of it being anti-Semitic?
Wait, is that to me or to Pisco?
Both.
Okay, so
I mean, you said you already agree with me, so I don't know why you're the one that's most like. No offense, but like I don't know why you're the one mostly talking. Like I don't know why Pisco's like checked out of this debate here when I'm here to talk to him. Like
because you're not doing a good job, and I'm trying to help you, and he's okay. Well, look, no, it's true though. I mean, look, it seems like I'm not. Look, Pisco could explain why, but. It seems like I don't think you're actually meeting Pisco where he's at. I don't think you're understanding what he's saying. Because of that, it doesn't seem like you're going to eventually present the best arguments that are going to convince him. Now,
when using the term pig dogs in combination when you're referring to Zionists, can we not infer that probably has an anti-Semitic meaning?
I'm not convinced of that.
Why?
Because it seems like, based on what I'm hearing, it's a generic insult that could be used in contexts that don't necessarily imply it. And so the mere fact that someone would...
But the context that is being implied is anti-Zionism, which is like the destruction of the Jewish state. That's one. And then what is the example? When is the last time you've heard someone say pig dog at a context outside of that? Or when is the last time you've heard Hassan say the term pig dog outside of that?
No, someone somewhere, I vaguely recall that he used pig dog against non-Jews at a certain point in the past as to his specific thing. As to the history, I think it's your burden to share. Do you deny the fact that pig dog is a generic insult? Do you deny that?
I think there are maybe people have used it as like a non-anti-Semitic insult in the same way that maybe someone used like the hard R N-word, not against black people, but like it's still a slur and it's overwhelmingly associated with like the anti-Semitism of it.
Yeah, so there's the heavy connotation that it's a racial slur, but it sounds like you weren't convinced of that with pig dog.
There is a heavy connotation with pig dog.
I'm not convinced of that. Provide the evidence for that.
Okay, it's used in. When Hassan Piker uses it, it is in context with the destruction of the Jewish state. Like this is not used against.
So if he said like, American pig dog,
he's not referring to.
If he said American,
Hassan Piker is not
shut the fuck up.
Shut
the fuck up.
Turks.
I'm losing it. So if he said American pig dog, would you say he's anti-American for saying that, not for other reasons?
If he said American pig dog, what was the context of him saying that?
The only context you gave me was Zionist pig dog. So now I'm giving you American. If Hassan said American pig dog,
I'm pretty sure if he said like American pig dog, it was in the context of an American supporting like.
I'm not saying that he said it. I don't even know if he said that. I'm asking whether if he did say that. Right? You just gave me Zionist pig dog.
I'm sure he said that. Yes.
I'm not sure that he said that. It's not important. I'm asking if. Right? It's a conditional.
I'm saying I think he has said that, so I'm agreeing with you, or I'm agreeing with your premise.
I can't. Avi, I can't.
So
I'm sorry. You asked me a question. I engage with your question, and then you say I can't. What?
I'm
so
defeated.
it sounds like Pisco is saying, North, that
Why do I need a Pisco translator here?
okay,
asked
well,
him to
you
help.
can say that, but it actually seems to be the only thing working. So
Well,
sorry.
it feels like Pisco can't contend with what I'm saying, and then he's just relying on you for like his arguments because he just can't contend with me. So,
Oh, so you're saying
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
trying? Okay, well, that's a different accusation. Now
Well,
you're saying
I'm not saying that you're necessarily like not trying to like do the thing, but like I'm here to like contend with Pisco. And
You
then
don't think
Pisco
Avi's
is
trying to
throwing
help
up his
you
arms.
to? So you understand that Avi is going to be making a case against Hassan as well, and
You asked a question, and you asked, has Hassan or like has the term American pig dog ever been said before, or has Hassan ever said like the term
No,
like
I
American pig
fucking
dog?
didn't,
Or would
and
he
you're not
hypothetically
listening.
say the
No,
term
you're not.
American pig dog?
You're
And I
not
said yes.
listening.
Follow
Avi, can you
that.
repeat what I said? 'Cause I'm sure Avi remembers it.
yeah. Well, it sounds so. North, Pisco is not convinced that the term pig dog.
No.
is...
What is Pisco's question? Say it verbatim.
No, no, I don't remember off the what.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so then he doesn't know what you're
I
talking
said
about.
if.
No, I don't.
I said if Hassan used the term American pig dog, if would you consider that
that
to be?
question. Okay.
Yeah, that question.
Yeah, then
Would I
okay.
consider it to be?
Would
I
it
would
be
consider it to be
anti-Semitic?
anti-Semitic. Yes, it is an anti-Semitic usage of that. Yes.
Okay,
American?
Okay, well then it sounds like. Well, then it sounds like you
Like
have a different.
when he talks about American pig dog, I'm pretty sure like I know he has said. In fact, I'm pretty sure I remember him saying this term before, and he said it before in the context of like referring to Americans like who support the nation state of Israel.
Okay, so I think what maybe Pisco wants to ask if he referred it to Americans who like just in a neutral, with respect to Israel context.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, like if it's just like a random Joe, and he just he's arguing over some other issue.
Sure, someone can say American pig dog, but the problem is it's not being used in that way. In the same way, someone could say like
you're fighting the
hard
hypothetical
in like a non.
But he's just asking.
I am fighting the I'm fighting the premise. It's not a hypothetical. I'm fighting the premise. I'm saying like yes, it could exist, but it's so implausible that it doesn't even matter to the discussion.
He's just asking what you would take away if you found Hassan doing that. So let's say you find Hassan saying, "Okay, he's using that slur."
If I heard Hassan saying American pig dog, I would assume that he's being anti-Semitic. Yes.
No. If you knew the context had nothing to do with Jews or Zionism,
then hold on. Are we talking? Because there's a difference in something here. Are we saying like with the totality of his other statements, we're just taking this as like person X who happens to be named Hassan Piker who says American pig dog, or are we saying like if Hassan Piker said American pig dog,
if I said American pig dog,
if
I said American pig dog, would you assume I'm being anti-Semitic?
No.
What?
But if Hassan Piker said it, yes, with the context of everything else that he has said. That is
put
why
aside
I'm
the
having
context.
contention over this.
So in isolation, so it sounds like pig dog by itself isn't inherently anti-Semitic.
Well, in isolation, like if someone said the N word in isolation,
I would assume that it's racial.
Racist, but like if I'm reading Huckleberry Finn and I'm say like the N word,
I would assume it's a racial connotation.
Automatically assume it's like not racist. Yes, but I'm assuming there's a racial connotation with Hassan Piker because of like the previous context added.
So
the same way that you could do it.
If I said Zionist pig dog, if I said Zionist pig dog, would you assume it's anti-Semitic?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not convinced that this word carries that the weight that you think it does.
It's a historical. It is a historical anti-Semitic term being tied to people who support the existence of like the state of Israel.
So here's a better way. I don't think this is the best evidence, but if you really want to make this case, there's a better way of doing it with the pig dog term. You can say, okay, we can grant. Like the Steelman way of doing this is to say, look, we can grant that the term pig dog historically was a generic insult by Germans. That's true. It wasn't unique to Jews. However,
I think the term is even used like today. It's like not as
okay. I'm gonna get there. So however, over time, one second. However, over time, because it was so heavily used toward Jews, even though it wasn't a specific to Jew insult historically, because it wasn't, because Jews do take that with them, and because it is associated with that sort of thing, even though it's not really fully a unique to Jew thing. There's a little bit of an ergo up there, especially if someone is making an insult to a Jewish Zionist or whatever, and they specifically go for the German insult. Like, why are they doing that? Like, why? What accounts for that? Your ears should go up a little bit there. Is that the strongest evidence? No, there's a lot of plausible hypotheses that could charitably counter that. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe Hassan Piker actually thinks it's just like there's nothing really there that's unique to Jews. Maybe he's not aware of it. But if you're gonna like fully advance it, you want to like put the extra steelman on it. You don't want to just say like, okay, well, he said pig dog. You want to say like, okay, even though historically it might not be unique to Jews, because now it's recognized, that word has continued over time, and because now it's recognized.
What do you mean? Historically, it has been recognized as like an anti-Semitic slur. Like
not unique.
And today, it is used by anti-Semites.
So that's a better case. You could say like, okay. First of all, historically, it was a generic insult by Germans. It was used against Jews for sure, but it was a generic insult. Now you can say, okay, even though that's true, because it was incidentally used by Nazis against Jews, that has been co-opted. That insult has been co-opted by actual anti-Semites.
Yeah, that's what
and that is the thing that they use.
What's
and now
the case for that?
using that. Right. That would be a better case. You'd want some evidence for it, for sure. But yes, that's a better.
Hold on. I feel like if you were to accept this premise, you would have to accept the idea of like the N-word not being the non-racist. We'll call it the non-discriminatory against Black people N-word. You have to accept that is like.
Why am I committed to that?
Does like exist.
Why would I be committed to that?
I don't think. No, there's an obvious analogy with the N-word. The N-word historically, it was unique to Black people. It was clearly targeted toward Black people. There was no widespread use of the N-word toward white people.
Do you think that people have used like the N-word in the context of like against like not Black people? They've used it against like,
they've
other
said
white people.
White N-word. That's not the point.
Or they've used it against like maybe like Mexicans or some sort of like Latino Americans or something like that.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure it have, but that's not that doesn't undermine what I just said.
The usage of a slur being used not against like the group that it was like originally against does not inherently mean that like the slur is now considered like not anti-Black.
Okay, good. Yeah, sure. That's why. Okay, good. Yes, I agree.
In the same way that it just because there might have been usages of pig dog against like let's say Poles by Nazis during like the 40s does not inherently mean that it wasn't an anti-Semitic slur, nor is it not an anti-Semitic slur today.
Yeah, no, so that I agree with. And when I'm looking at and I do prioritize the current meaning of the word now, then
we agree that it's an anti-Semitic slur.
Although our words today are still somewhat informed historically, yes, I do prioritize.
Pisco, do you agree that it's an anti-Semitic slur?
Today, I'm not convinced of that.
Yeah, so you'd want to. So my understanding is there's a little bit of the way I would describe the word pig dog is I don't think it's anti-Semitic against Jews in the same way that the N-word is anti-Black. However, I do think there is a bit of a little edge on it. How to say, and I don't have data on that. I haven't looked into the data on like.
But we not consider like even if it's like a like even if we're talking about culturally, we don't consider like the slur to be as bad. The mere fact that we are agreeing that it is an anti-Semitic slur.
No one has.
Is using.
Wait, what agreed that?
Apparently, Pisco, you refuse to engage in the conversation. It just made
I've been listening this entire time.
I don't know what's going on here.
Okay,
so then are you going to like actually engage with the conversation?
Stop with the meta. No, I've been listening. I've been listening this entire time. You've been floundering. No one here has conceded that.
I don't know if you've been listening the entire time.
I have been. I've been following the whole time. No one here, and more than you apparently, because no one here has conceded that it's an anti-Semitic slur. At least not in the way that the N-word is an anti-Black slur.
Yeah. It might be something that it's a much more like dilute form of an anti-Semitic slur at this point. There's a possibility for that. I'd have to look into it further, but let's just say that it is. Let's say that this is like, it was historically a non-specific to Jews, but now because of the history, because it's been co-opted by anti-Semites to some degree, it has some sort of a more specificity towards Jews there. Let's say that's the case. So that might be a weak form of evidence, but you'd really want to look at the other countervailing hypotheses that are present, and you'd want to exclude them. You'd want to say, okay, does Hassan actually know about that? Does he know that there's, if that's true? So number one, you'd want data to show that it's true.
Hold on. Do you think that Hassan knows more than the average person about I guess
Can
like
you
the
look
history
at
of
his
Jews and
That's the whole-
Palestinians?
If he doesn't know it, well, that's the point. If he doesn't know it, you'd want to show that.
Wait, Pisco, do you
If he
think
doesn't
that
know it.
Hassan is retarded and he doesn't know the context of the term pig dog?
I don't have a clue
Pisco,
whether
do
he
you think
knows that. I have no clue whether he knows that. That's your case to make.
You want to show that he knows it. That's the point. You want to show that he
Or
knows
just-
that. Wait, but this is what you'd want him to do for your case. You'd want to show that he's at least somewhat aware that the slur has an anti-Semitic flair to it, and to show that he's doing it anyway, and ideally, for your case, to show that he disproportionately, or even better yet, exclusively
Okay,
uses it
so
towards Jews
can we make an assumption that Hassan probably knows more than the average person about Israel Palestine?
No, I think he's a fucking retard on Israel Palestine. What do you mean?
So do you think that because he's a retard in Israel Palestine, he doesn't know the historical context of the term pig dog?
That doesn't follow.
That doesn't. No, I don't think so. But that's not. No, I don't think that. I wouldn't say that conditional is true. I don't think it follows. But where do I'm at the same place. I don't know if Hassan Piker knows to what degree the term pig dog is co-opted by anti-Semites.
And to be clear,
And I don't-
Bobby
honestly,
doesn't
I haven't
know.
even
You don't
looked-
have the evidence yet. You don't even have the data right now.
Yeah, I don't even know to what degree it has. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised. If I looked into it and I found out, okay, well, even though historically it was this generic slur, today it's been over time, it's been more so co-opted by anti-Semites.
It's called facts and evidence, North.
Yeah, I'm open to being convinced that that's.
I am too, by the way.
Pisco, you
It
got cut
sounds
off.
anti-Semitic.
Pisco, you got cut off. What
Yeah,
did you say?
Pig dog to me, I want to believe it's anti-Semitic because it's I don't know, it kind of feels it, but that's just my vibe. But I don't really know. I'm not gonna vibe my way to it and assume it is.
Well, here would be the strategy if you want to if this is really the piece of evidence you want to use to convince Pisco.
If I were to look up, hold on, I'm in my car right now. Okay.
No, this is something you do later. I'm not gonna accept evidence right now. No, I don't want to do this. No, stop with this. This is not while you're driving. Not while you're
hold on. I want to have a part 2 on this because.
Sure, you can. I mean, if you want to join after, I don't know, Avi, how much time you want to dedicate to the. I mean, my guess is you dedicate as many hours.
If we were to look up, what
my guess is Avi likes
that,
what we're doing right now. He's enjoying this.
Is an anti-Semitic? Hold on. What sources would you accept for it to be an anti-Semitic slur?
I don't know. Some
would
fucking,
you need to do
some analysis from some group that says that this is something they hear in their interviews with former anti-Semites or some testimonial evidence.
If you start seeing it recognized
current anti-Semites
towards Jews, if you start seeing it in Merriam-Webster, they say this is a term for just so you know, this is a term derogatorily at Jews.
Prominent anti-Semites that use it, like Fuentes and others. Maybe that would increase it, shit like that.
Guarantee that I can probably find Fuentes saying.
You asked what?
If I were to bring this.
Oh my god. I'm gonna
Right.
kill North.
You asked him what would convince him. He's just giving you examples of what would convince him.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I'm saying if I were to do things find definitions online and define let's say
in Minecraft, that's a joke.
organizations that are against racism,
I'm not actually gonna
and
kill
they
him.
were to define it, and I was to find get Nick Fuentes clips of him talking about it, and
this is the kind of thing you'd want to produce to me. I'm not just gonna assume it's an anti-Semitic slur.
And if I were to produce all of
Wait,
that,
why
would
did
you
you
be convinced?
scoff at that, North? What should I assume it's anti-Semitic?
It's your stubbornness.
Answer my question.
Confuses me.
What? Wait. So I'm going to appeal to Avi once more, who is the biggest Hassan hater, probably more than you. Am I stubborn right now? Do you find me being stubborn?
No, you're not being stubborn. You're asked what.
I think you were being incredibly stubborn.
You're
Yes.
No, you asked him for a goalpost. He gave you examples. He was searching for examples of goalposts he would accept, so he did that.
Yes, and then I asked him about the Nick Fuentes thing, and then he started saying that he wants to kill me. So I don't know.
It was
a
a
joke.
joke.
Flying into like a blind rage when I'm trying to engage with you.
He said no. He that's one example. He would say yes. Then you said, "Oh, I guarantee you, I could find that." Well, if you guarantee him you could find that, then all the better. Then you just be meeting his goalpost.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So we accept this premise that pig. Let's for the sake of argument say that we accept this premise. I provide the evidence. Later, you accept the premise that pig dog is an anti-Semitic slur. Would then
you'd want to show that Hassan knows
using that slur.
Yeah, that's just step one. That's just step one. Right? It needs to be intentional. Why are you scoffing? Why are you scoffing? Like, it's unreasonable.
By the way, Nord, you're laughing, but when I present my evidence, I'm going to present every one of these elements. So, like,
You're going to present every single one of these evidence that
yes,
Hassan Piker knows explicitly. Like, I don't have the explicit clip. I don't have the explicit clip of Hassan Piker talking about the term pig dog. I'm sure I could probably find.
I don't know if this is true.
If I were to like,
I don't know if it's true, North. But someone just said, and I don't know if it's true. In Shrek 2, Puss in Boots yells, "You capitalist pig dogs!" at the royal guards just before they are all tackled and arrested. And I want that to be included in Avi's analyses when we do it. I have to go in like 15 minutes. Just heads up.
Just to be clear,
I know you're not going to focus on that. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's not part of my
hold on.
evidence.
If Hassan Piker is using this term only in, let's say, overwhelmingly in the context of referring to Israel, would we not consider this to be anti-Semitic?
That's your point to make. Why are you trying to get around your fucking burden? Not necessarily.
What do you mean that's my point to make? Like, if you accept it, why?
Because I'm not going to assume it. Show it.
I'm asking
why are you
hypothetical, Pisco.
Wait, what's the hypo? Maybe I missed it.
Why can't you engage?
What's the hypo? What's the hypo? What's the hypo?
I gave the hypo. What was like? I don't know.
Say it again then.
Pisco?
Say it again then. I must have missed it.
Because you weren't listening. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing to you that you've been doing to me. Yes, you must have missed it. If Hassan Piker is overwhelmingly using the term pig dog in the context of the state of Israel, which is a Jewish majority state.
Yeah, no.
It is a state explicitly for
the
Jews. Would you consider that anti-Semitic?
No, because you have to I did hear because you have to show both at least two elements, right? That it is in fact an anti-Semitic slur, at least some credence on that, and that he's aware of it.
Assuming those two things are true, would it then be true? That it is an anti-Semitic usage?
Some evidence. Then you would be some evidence. It would move his needle. It would move his credence needle. He'd be like,
okay, hold on. I'm not trying to move his needle. I'm trying to get him to get a yes or no thing. If all this just moves the needle but doesn't change its overall opinion, then all this is just for naught.
It's not the big. It's not. I'm not gonna call it even if it's an anti-Semitic slur, and even if Hassan is aware a little bit of it. To me. I'm going to be honest with you, right?
Let's say Hassan specifically knew that, like, yes, I know this is an anti-Semitic slur, and
I'll explain why.
Wouldn't change it.
I'll explain why, right? So it definitely does move my credence. I just granted that to you, but I don't take just slur usage by itself to be like, okay, this is the kind of we're reaching the threshold and of. Wait, why are you laughing?
Okay. Because it's ridiculous. I do find it truly ridiculous.
Avi, do you find it ridiculous?
Wait, I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah, so for example, people use the R word, right? The R slur, right? Now,
sure.
Would you say anyone who used that slur is ableist?
No, but if someone let's say if someone only used the term retard, I'm just going to say it. I don't give a shit. And they only said it in the context of like, look at these retarded children. Then yes, that would be ableist.
Okay, but what so let's say that he applied it to more than just people who are actually mentally handicapped. It probably raises your credence.
On, like, the degree that he applies
it raises it, but like I don't think that you're gonna like go on a limb and be like absolutely.
But if it was like, let's say if it was like 99%, 1%, would that instantly make it so that you don't consider it to be like ableist?
No, I would grant that would be anti-Semitic to do. Yes. But there's like a threshold of before you call. So you know this, right? Because someone in their day-to-day life, right? Everyone's a little bit racist. Agreed, North?
Sure.
Yeah, but like before you're gonna call someone a racist, there's like some threshold. We don't know like exactly what that would be before you're willing to do that, right? You're not gonna say that because we have a little abuelita who doesn't want to get into taxi.
Okay, let's say there's like. Okay, so like we agree that there is such a thing as like a threshold, right?
Yeah, Avi and I talked about it the other day.
Like some sort of percentage.
I would call it like
so some sort of.
I would call him like he is somewhat anti-Semitic. Yes, for the usage of that term.
No. Hold on. Let's take a. Let's say if it was like 80%, 20% usage against Jews versus like not against Jews.
Yeah, so I would say his knowing usage of an anti-Semitic slur would make him at least minimally anti-Semitic on some level. Whether I call him an anti-Semite, which carries a much heavier connotation, right? That there's a more kind of like elaborate set of biases, or at least a stronger bias, I would say. Then that to me is unclear, and I don't really know. I have to think about that more about what those thresholds are. You're scoffing, but you yourself would understand that, right? And you would also do that, correct, North? You yourself would also do that, right? You would also have thresholds about whether you're willing to call someone racist if they use a slur one time, right?
But
yes or no? Okay, if you don't answer, if you don't answer, this conversation is over.
Yes, but it's not analogous.
Okay, so why are you scoffing when I say that these thresholds exist if you yourself have them?
Why? Because I just said why. Because it's not analogous. Because the Tom Hiker isn't using it just once.
All I'm saying is there are some thresholds, and you're scoffing at that.
I am scoffing at that.
Why?
Yes.
I didn't tell you what that threshold was.
He's not using it just once.
I didn't tell you what the threshold was.
It's a consistent pattern of behavior.
I didn't tell you what that threshold was, and you're saying you're scoffing. That's rude and stupid to scoff, right?
I was trying to get that threshold, and when I asked,
I'm done with him. Avi, sorry, I'm done. I can't do it with him anymore.